Today, we are talking about Acura and the new Integra that's going to be coming out soon that they've been showing off. And if we look at Acura's roadmap in terms of vehicles for 2022, it hasn't disappointed us yet. And this new compact sedan is going to be the Integra. This video will also cover what we can expect from this car now that the Civic Si has been revealed. So let's just get into it, starting with the exterior. So Acura dropped some spy footage, or some spy photos of it, teaser photos. So the first image that they dropped was basically the chicane headlights with Integra on the bottom of them. I do like the chicane headlights design. I think it looks really good for Acura's design language. And we have some more spy images that were taken as well. So we see the kind of diamond pentagon grille from the front right here. We got the chicane headlights that was shown in the teaser. We do see a lot of this similar design elements to the Civic hatchback, such as the clamshell hood, the mirrors on the A-pillar, and also some of the body lines that I can see on it. Moving towards the rear of the spy images, we do see what the taillights will look like, the bumper, the exhaust will look like. Overall, I'm not sure I'm liking the back images because it kind of looks more like a Crosstour or Acura ZDX more than like a VW Arteon or a Kia Stinger or a Mercedes CLA. But hopefully they'll get it worked out because the Civic hatch is pretty good looking in my opinion. So hopefully they'll do it here. Acura has shown us what the back will actually look like with this spy images. With this spy image right here. I'm not sure I'm feeling it still. It looks kind of like a Genesis Coupe lookalike, or it's sort of giving me BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe vibes, which is not good. We'll have to see when the whole thing is released, but I am prepared to be disappointed by the rear design on this thing. Moving on to the interior, I was looking at this teaser here. We do know that it's going to get a 6-speed manual, but I'm going to focus on some of the other elements that we get from the interior shots from the spy image. The first is that this has the same switchgear from a Honda Civic. And if we look at the Honda Civic Si, the new one that was revealed, and the 10th gen, it has the exact same shift knob from that vehicle. And one thing that I was able to figure out is that this is not an A-spec, because if we look at Acura's whole lineup, all their A-spec vehicles are either red interior or brown interior. This interior right here is a beige, so meaning that the 6-speed manual will likely be available on a bunch of different trims and won't be just a certain trim exclusive, because if it were to be exclusive, the 6-speed manual, it would make the most sense to put it on the A-spec model. And I hope the one thing I'm worried about with this interior from what we're seeing is that it's going to be too Civic-y. You know what I mean? And I hope they can make it look a lot more different, because when I paid more money to sit in an Acura product, I don't want to be reminded that this is a Honda product or specifically a Civic product. So I hope they take some stuff down from the TLX interior, so that can be ambient lighting, the ELS sound system. The current ILX gets that, so we know we're going to get that. The true touchpad interface, I don't know if they're going to update it or something like that, because that's probably the worst in the industry, but it should be different from the Civics in some way, even though the Civic's infotainment is arguably better. And hopefully this new infotainment will probably work faster than the Civic infotainment system, because I heard that it's lagging in some places. And overall, I think it'd be kind of sporty. I think the interior will be a little sportier, because that's what they're kind of going for with this vehicle, at least with the teasing and the marketing. So hopefully it'll be somewhere in between the Si and the base Civic. So somewhere in between. I'm sure that the Type A will kind of go further into more of a Si territory of sportiness in terms of interior. Now let's talk about the performance on this vehicle. So we know it's going to be built on a Civic platform, because we see Civic design elements in the car. We see Civic switchgear in the car. I think this is better than what the previous ILX was offered, because that was built on a 9th gen platform while the 10th gen was still out, meaning that the platform was older and just less refined than what the new 10th gen offered. But now that this is built on the 11th gen platform, they can upgrade it and make it better than what the previous ILX was offering by a lot. And being built off the Civic platform can have a lot of benefits. For example, this could have more interior space and better use of space than the TLX. One of the worst things about the TLX, in my opinion, is that it's as big as a 5 Series, but it has less interior space and cargo capacity than the Honda Civic 10th Gen. So that's not good, and this will be able to address that. And going to the engines, we have a few engines that this could offer. The first is obviously going to be the 1.5 turbo. If we look at the ILX and the Honda Civic, those shared the Civic Si, those shared similar engines. I don't think they'll go to the 180 horsepower that they do in the EX or the touring trims. They'll do the Civic Si power, and that's going to be 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. And Honda has made a multitude of upgrades to this engine. One of them being a better power band, so you're going to get torque at 1800 peak torque at 1800 RPM, and the car is going to rev to 6500 RPM. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 horsepower off the current Civic Si. So more performance features is that we know it's going to be a 6-speed manual from the photos. So the Civic Si 6-speed manual has been updated for better improved shifts and 10% shorter throws. So it's going to be a little more sporty to drive. The Civic Si also features the rev match system from the Type R, and I do not doubt that they'll put it on here. And also newly introduced the SI as an individual mode. But one thing that I criticized the SI for was that they took off the adaptive dampers and they put on the individual mode. So I think one thing that they did with the Acura Integra now is going to be they're going to add in these new adaptive dampers as well as this individual mode for a better driving feel. One thing I am wondering is if they're going to put in the LSD, because one thing that the Civic Si previous generations have had to compared to the Integras and the RSX is that the Civic Si always had the LSD, and I feel like it makes sense for them to put this on there since they're marketing to that demographic, at least on the A-spec trims and higher, for better performance overall. Maybe they might be saving it for the Type S model, which we know is coming. But that's about it. And this 1.5 liter engine has a bunch of various benefits over its competition. So it's going to have, on the Civic Si, it currently has 37 highway and 27 city. The Mercedes A-Class, which this would probably be competing with, makes 188 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. And that gets 35 highway, 25 city. The CLA, which is 221 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, which is a little more power than this, but that gets 36 highway and 25 city. And the Audi A3 makes 221 horsepower with a new mild hybrid technology, and that makes 38 highway and 29 city. Speaking of mild hybrid technology, I do think that we could be getting that on this new Integra. This quote from John Ikeda, which is from a Motor Trend article, says that he expects that it will be electrified to some extent. So that means we can either be getting a hybrid version or a mild hybrid. I do not think that they're going to go full hybrid with this. So they could go mild hybrid on the Type S or the base model, or they can do both, or just the base model and keep the Type S model more performance oriented. But this could bring lots of benefits such as better stop-start technology, improved torque in starting off the line, probably like 10 horsepower and 30 pound-feet of torque just off the line. It will make it a little heavier and probably a little more expensive, about $1,000 to $2,000 more expensive. But I think it'll overall bring a lot of benefit to the vehicle. And you also get the improved in fuel economy, which is what we saw in the Audi A3. But let's get into the potential of the Type S. So we can be getting the 2-liter turbocharged engine. And there's a bunch of different tunes that they can do. They can make it more different from the Type R and put either the Accord tune, which is the 252 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque. Or they can put in the TLX tune, which makes 272 horsepower. But I think they should probably go with the Type R, because the Type R tune makes 306 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. It'll make sense for it to box up into the CLA 35 and also the Audi S3. The CLA has 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, And the S3, the new one, also has Type R numbers, which is 306 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Both of these vehicles have all-wheel drive, and one of Acura's staples is SH all-wheel drive. So I'm not sure if they'll put this on that vehicle because it is a Civic platform, and I'm not sure if that the Civic platform is optimized or can support SH all-wheel drive, but it makes sense to put it on here. But the difference that this vehicle can make is that the Integra Type S can start at $40K, maybe a little $2,000-$3,000 more than the Type R. But the difference is that the S3 starts at $44,000 and can be optioned up into the mid-50s. And the same can be said for the Mercedes CLA. So putting this Type R engine can make the Integra a way better value than those competitors. And I think that's worth something. And if they add an all-wheel drive, I think it's a wrap. I think this will actually do the job of offering a value-oriented performance sedan more so than the TLX Type S. But that's just my opinion. So tell me what you guys think about that in the comments, and we can have a discussion there. And the last powertrain, probably the most boring, is probably going to be maybe a hybrid version. And what they can do is maybe do an upgraded Insight powertrain. And that is a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine with a motor that combined produces 151 horsepower. The problem with that is that I hear that it drones a lot on the highway, very noisy, buzzy engine, and that's not what you want for a luxury car. So maybe they can step up to the Accord hybrid, and that uses a 2-liter engine that produces 143 horsepower, 129 pound-feet of torque, and an electric motor that produces 181 horsepower, 232 pound-feet of torque, and combined is 212 horsepower and 213 pound-feet of torque, which would be perfect for this car if they wanted to do a hybrid. And speaking of, this would probably have a CVT on it, just like the other cars, but let's go into the other transmissions for the other trims. The first might be an automatic transmission. We got the 8-speed previous Acuras. The previous Acura ILX had that, as well as the Acura CDX, which is sold in other markets. So it might make sense to put an upgraded version of this in this car, and you can have basically an automatic SI and also an automatic Type R, if you know what I mean. Or you could do the 10-speed automatic. It's a really great transmission. They tuned it perfectly for the Accord. The Accord is pretty fast for what it is, but also they also revamped it and refined it for the new TLX Type S. So they could put that exact same transmission in this car and it would work awesome. So imagine like a Type R, but with like a 10-speed automatic, optional manual, and also all-wheel drive. Like, this car has a lot of potential in my opinion. So now for the last parts of the video, I want to go over what this car could be packaged out. So I think the very lowest trim of the Integra will be similar to a Civic EX, but upgraded, if you know what I mean. So you're probably going to get heated front seats, dual zone climate, moonroof, probably like an 8 to 10 speaker bass audio system, pleather seats, full LED headlights, and also whatever infotainment screen that they're going to be using on there, you're going to get that. So moving on, you're probably going to have a premium package, which is going to be actual leather seats, better lumbar, more power seats there, passenger and also the driver seats. You're going to get probably Sirius XM, and you might get blind spot monitoring information, but I think that might be a good base feature on this car, and that includes rear cross traffic. The next will be the A-Spec, and that will mostly be mostly exterior and interior changes. So you're going to get like a better looking car, sportier looking on the outside and the inside. You're going to get those special A-Spec seats that they usually do, different headliner, different garnishes and trim that they do. Maybe they might throw the LSD on this model. And that's pretty much it for the A-Spec patches. It's probably going to be mostly an appearance package. And the next is going to be the technology package. And you have to get the A-Spec on the ILX to get the technology package. So I think they might do the same here because they're marketing this as a performance sporty vehicle. So it makes sense to have the best of the best be based off the A-Spec, in my opinion, and that might include the ELS audio system. They're probably going to up the speakers from 10 to maybe 12, 14, maybe even 16. Because the Civic gets a 12-speaker system already, you're probably going to get some form of navigation system. Maybe low-speed traffic follow that they do in the Civic in the normal Civic Touring. And you might get the 10-inch display on here. They definitely got to do that because the Acura MDX gets it, and also the Civic Sport Touring gets it. We know that the Type R is going to get it, so they got to put it in this vehicle. And of course, you're going to get your active safety standard, and that's going to be collision mitigation braking, road departure mitigation, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, pedestrian detection, traffic sign recognition, and traffic jam assist. I'm just curious where they're going to put the blind spot monitoring. And to end off this video, I just think I'm sort of consciously optimistic about this car. As we know, Honda and Acura, they build classic. They build some of the best, but sometimes they do let us down. Like, look at the Civic Si reveal. You can watch my video on that. The Type S, the TLX Type S, and a few other vehicles that could have been great, but just fell short of the bar. And that's a potential possibility with this. Looking at the exterior, depending on how they make the end look, I think they'll either make or break the car, in my opinion. Because if the end is just like, just Accord Cross Tour looking, the car holds a special place in my heart because my parents own one. But if it looks like that, that's not great. And then with the interior, we see at least in like the one section that we see like 2-3 instances of Civic switchgear. And if this is just the upgraded Civic interior, that's not particularly great in my opinion. And I think it really needs to differentiate itself in that regard. And even with the engine, Honda and Acura can mess this up too. Like, they could just give us the normal 1.5 liter tune off the Civic EX and Touring trims, which wouldn't be great. They might mess around, and for the Type S tunes, they might like put the tune from the Accord or the TLX in there, when clearly putting the Type R engine in tune would make perfect sense compared to its competition and stuff. And a few other things here and there might make the car a little more disappointing than it really should be. But in my opinion, this car is an open dunk under the rim. Do not pass the ball to Matisse Thybulle for a foul and just put the ball up. Like, this car should be a layup, an easy home run. But I feel like knowing Honda and Acura, they can mess this up. But that's pretty much it for me, guys. I hope Acura succeeds with this vehicle and gives the consumer what they want. And that's pretty much all I got to say. So if you liked, subscribe. Watch my previous video on what I thought of the Civic Si. And that's pretty much all I got for you. Thanks for watching. Peace.